Hey Faith Family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, Calvary Bible, welcome back to another episode of Pastoral Touchpoints. We had a week off because I was in...
It's not Pastoral Touchpoints.
Shoot.
It's Beyond Sunday.
Shoot.
Listen, the whole reason why we're doing this is so that Beyond Sunday, our folks might be able to put into practice Psalm 57.
Listen,
it's Beyond Sunday. I just want to clarify. I like the Pastoral Touchpoints too.
Cut.
Rich and Jonathan did great.
Yeah, add those to the bloopers. Dang, man. It just rolls off the tongue so nice. It does.
So does Beyond Sunday, by the way.
And the theme song's coming back. Good times. Right. All right, Beyond Sunday, that is where we are. But we did have a week off. Speaking of pastoral touch points, though, I heard rumors that there's a parishioner touch point episode coming back. Season 2, episode 1. So just that's the rumor anyway. We'll see. And if it gets videoed and recorded, I'm sure the guys will put that on YouTube and let everyone in the church and the world know that they're doing it. So anyway, that should be fun to look forward to. But yeah, we were out last week in Missouri, had a great time with the prize there at CEF. And, you know, I don't know if I mentioned it on Sunday, but just a highlight for me was to connect with the prize. And I think it's been a really neat thing to do in these mission trips over the years, just to be with our missionaries, come alongside them. And we really didn't, I can't help Fred out. No one on our team could help Fred out with what he does. Mm-hmm. But he's clearly being used by God out there. And I think they were definitely encouraged by having the team out. So that was good. And I think a lot of you saw the rack of ribs that I got. Now, confession, I gave my girls 3 of them.
Oh, wow. I
don't know if that's an offense or anything like that, breaking a rule. I gave each of my girls one of the little ribs. They like their ribs, trying to train them up well, and polished that thing off. And everyone seemed like that was a feat, but I don't know. Could you eat? You couldn't eat a whole rack of ribs?
In the morning, you could.
In the morning, you probably could.
In the morning for breakfast.
Yeah, that would be a good old breakfast right there. I'd go for that.
Yeah. Some
ribs. All right. Make note. All right. So here we go. Psalm 57. Mm-hmm. Did I get that right? Mm-hmm. Last week, like I said, we had off. And Psalm 56, actually, no questions came in. And so we're just going to skip over that one and just jump right into Psalm 57 here today. Mm-hmm. So if we had to sum up the sermon in a sentence or try and recap what it was, the points here that you laid out for us are asking God for a huge favor. And then the line that was repeated, which is desiring God's influence to expand. Let me read that one because we sung it too. Mm-hmm. Verse 5 and verse 11. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over the earth. And you really liked that as how do you say it? Like one of the most important prayers or wishes in the Bible?
Yeah. I can't think of any other request. I can't think of any other part of the Christian life that doesn't come under that. So we did spend some time on that. It's listed twice there. So it is functioning as a chorus. And I think that one of the things that we would want to do is make sure that we are praying that prayer regularly. It should be our desire, our prayer wish as well, just following his example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually I want to touch on that towards the end. Just how often are we praying that kind of a prayer, the things that distract us from it. So yeah, the Psalm I think if I was going to sum up the sermon in a sentence, it would be that verse 5 and verse 11, just the people of God, desiring for him to be exalted in our lives, in the world around us, and expressing that to him. And one of the first things I want to touch on here is actually a comment came in about the preface to these Psalms. And so we're in this section of the Psalms where they're starting to come out a little bit more regularly. And so the comment was, in this person's NIV Bible, it says it's to the tune of "Do Not Destroy," and I think it was Psalm 56 or 55, "A dove on distant oaks." And so you've mentioned that a couple of times on Sundays, how we really don't know why that's there or what it's doing, and we don't want to make too much of it. But what do you think? Like, for me, I think it was interesting just to think about and be reminded that these Psalms are God's word. And sometimes God's word can be an intimidating thing because it's this ethereal piece of literature. Like it can't be grasped and it's beyond me. But I think to be reminded that these Psalms had instruments that went to them. They were written by someone in a context, and maybe they were to the tune of another song or whatever these things are doing for us, to the choir master. For me, at least, it helps bring the scriptures down to like an earthly level and remind me that the author is both divine and human. And when I remember that there's a human element to it, I remember, okay, like that's something that I can relate to and grasp. And so I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but that was just a good reminder to me that these scriptures, while they are God breathed, there also is a human element in them, and it's a good thing because I'm a human.
Yeah, one of the best things we could probably do is just remember they're designed to be sung. So, these titles and, the comment about, is it a tune? Is it some kind of musical note? We have no idea. More than likely, we won't know until some type of archaeological find shows up, literally is unearthed. That happens a lot. So, but one of the things you can do this week is just think about how important it is to sing these Psalms, especially verses 5 and 11. So that chorus, be exalted, O God, above the heavens, let your glory be known through all the earth. I think when you talk about God bringing the scriptures down to us, in this case, it is extremely human because you have professional singers and musicians who are creating this for the church, for the people of God to be sung. So, I would just ask you to consider how your relationship with God is affected if you actually sing this little chorus in the morning. And we might talk about that in a minute, you said. So I just think that's just think about the genuineness of singing that chorus. We did it together in the faith family on Monday. On Sunday, I think it was the very first song of the morning.
Yeah.
When we did it a cappella. So I just know that throughout the week, singing that to the Lord will certainly put you in the right frame of mind for your whole day and how you are going to fit into that exaltation process. I think that was the key, actually. That's why the song is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
where do we fit in?
Yeah. And it's another one of these Psalms where the psalmist is in a difficult time, and he's in a storm, and we want to pray this prayer or sing this song
in that context.
Yeah, in the midst of the storm.
That's a good point.
So a couple of questions that I have just to kind of tease out. What's this look like for us, and how should we be changing as a result of the sermon on Sunday? And you brought up a quote from James Emery White, which you were saying just essentially is pointing out the spiritual narcissism of our day. And that's interesting because in the student ministry, I remember going back 15 years now, I might have been an intern at the time. I was reading a book, it wasn't a Christian book. It was just a book on religion in America. And it was talking about the moralistic therapeutic deism of this generation that I was, diving into. And this idea, and I think the narcissism is similar, where the moralistic therapeutic deism was this generation just simply wanted to do the right thing, be good, and it made them feel good. And then their view of God was very low and distant and kind of, almost cut off. Like he was that's the deism part. Like he's just out there and disconnected. And so the spiritual narcissism, I think was similar to that, or at least it smacked of a similar tone where it's people are coming to church for themselves, and that's not our purpose. And that was, right, isn't that the request in the Psalm? I cry out to God Most High, verse 2, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. And that purpose is not for me to feel better about myself. But that's kind of I don't know, I would say it's kind of one of the underlying currents, subtle currents that people don't even realize. And I'm sure it's affecting me in a way that I don't even recognize. And so I don't know if you've given that much thought, but what would you say are some ways that fleshes itself out? Maybe something that someone might say and that would reveal it to someone who's really paying attention.
Yeah, the first thing I would say is just think about the mindset that you have when you come to church. Even though we're talking about beyond Sunday, the exaltation of God, or making him look good, glorifying him in your personal life, if that's happening through the week, that now gets carried over into the worship service. Mm-hmm. The quote from White was simply, we're all seeing this. We hear the comments, we see them on social media. Mm-hmm. The air that we breathe, again, we talk about that is filled with this thought of, I'm focused on myself rather than on, I'm coming to church to exalt God with this congregation. Yeah. So that's what does it look like? First thing I would do is just say, this week, just ask yourself, are you focused on making God look good in your personal life and all of your activities and all of your interaction? And then can that spill over into the worship service where you're joining people like you who are also there for just one purpose, and that is, God, we want you to be glorified today in the way in which we participate. What are we doing for him? What are we giving to him? As opposed to what White was talking about was just the attitude of, this is all focused on me. Am I learning something? Do I feel good because of that particular song or that, that's just this backward, theologically backward.
Yeah. And so how do you balance that out where, like, I think if someone comes to church and says, I'm just not being fed, is that a me focused? And is that, should they not be fed from a sermon or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. But it can be legitimate if they're actually not being fed. The problem with us in America, remember, is we've got umpteen options. And so now it's a matter of, it's very easy to slide into, I'm not being fed the way I would like to be or the way I think I should be, because I'm comparing now this meal with, that meal, let's use the ribs. Take that meal and compare that with another meal. I won't.
My wife's a great cook.
I know.
All her meals are right there.
And that's a good thing to say that. But compare the meals, and you can easily see how, an American in church with all these options can very, very easily move into, this is about me. I need to be fed a certain way. And so that's the danger.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good distinction between, are you actually being fed, or are you being fed in a way that you prefer?
Yeah, my attitude, I rarely get to hear other sermons, but when I do, the question is, am I there to worship, or am I there to critique? I'm a preaching professor for all these years, but I want to go to church to worship God, not to critique the preacher.
Yep.
So much of it has to do with, am I there to glorify God? And by the way, my heart attitude in listening to that sermon is going to determine whether or not I glorify him. In other words, am I teachable in that moment? Am I looking at the Word of God from a perspective of, God, I need to know you today, and I want you to have my heart today. Something like that.
Yeah, it's really good. I just wrote down on Sunday morning, it's not about me being fed, me being moved, me being cared for. It's about God being worshiped and magnified.
Well, can I just say one other thing? Remember, in that quote, though, it was always the contrast of, instead of me, what did I get out of it? How am I contributing to your life, for instance, during the time? In other words, that quote was focused on rather than the spiritual narcissism that's always focused on me, I need to be active in the worship and in the local church because of how I am using my God-given abilities to build that body, which is the reason why I brought that quote into play, is because of the purpose of God that's being completed in us or being fulfilled in us has to be ultimately connected to how we contribute to building the body of Christ, which is a reflection on him. So in order for him to look good, in order to exalt him, you and I have to be active in building that body. So again, beyond Sunday, just remember that what we're dealing with is we're dealing with all of us having a part to play. And it's more than just coming to church. It's investing in the people that we are worshiping with, using the Spirit of God's, those gifts from the Spirit to build the body up. So it's more than me, it's us. And what am I doing to reach out?
And you brought up the 1 Corinthians, I think was it 12?
Just briefly.
Passage. And so, I mean, it definitely.
One body, many members.
Yep.
And the question is always, where do we fit? By the way, let me just say quickly, anybody struggling with where you fit, remember from past studies, you can just pick two options, the teaching or the serving, the speaking or the serving. Remember, there's only two. I think it's in 2 Peter, I think. So just pick two. You got a 50-50 shot at getting it right. Pick one. And then, possibly you'll find your way to effective service. Or speaking. I mean,
No, that's really helpful. All right. So to wrap that kind of thought up, the way that we prepare ourselves for a Sunday should not be, me focused. It's about worshiping God and fulfilling his purpose in that, like, how am I going to glorify God? And we do that by building up the body. We do that by being teachable, open ears to hear. We're coming to glorify.
Participation.
Okay, good. Active participation.
I'm here to give.
I'm just trying to think, that it probably, since Jason's been here, he's picked all of my favorite songs.
Wow.
Every single
You're
one.
Fortunate.
He's not missed one. But that would probably be a way. I'm joking. Sorry, Jason. You maybe missed one. But like that might be a way that it creeps into my own mind or heart where I think, I don't know, like that wasn't my favorite song. That's not a good thought.
No.
Or at least I need to curb. Is it the truth? Sure, it's the truth, but I don't want to be. I can't let that affect my worship. I should be able to worship as long as the song's a God glorifying song.
I'm singing this song to the glory of God. What does that mean? That means I am sincerely believing those words, wanting to say this to God. That's what it means. That's part of the exaltation. Regardless of the song. And
I enjoyed singing a cappella.
That was good.
I wasn't sure how it was going to go. I was mildly skeptical.
The folks sound great. With so many visitors that day, it's a little bit different because actually, usually the gathering of our own folks is stronger than when we have multiple visitors. So you could hear a little bit, but it was good. It was a good exercise in glorifying God.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
All right. So my second and I think last question, unless I, just have some crazy thoughts I want to follow up, would be towards the end. So if this is a prayer, and I said early on that I wanted to get back to it, how often are we praying this prayer, and are we praying this in the morning? And you said something about what do we think about when we wake up? Where does our mind go? And I forget where. No. It was on a documentary about social media. Oh man, some of you guys are going to know it. I'm just drawing a blank in the moment, but it was about social media's presence in our life. And the one guy said, you wake up and you do one of two things. It's like you grab your phone or you go to the bathroom, and sometimes you do both. Exactly. Yeah. So like we have so many things to just distract us, to numb our minds. And what's that series called that is the first century Jesus that you've been watching. I've
Oh,
watched a few episodes.
The Chosen.
The Chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember watching an episode there, and it's been really good. I've enjoyed that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But he's so excellent. But I remember seeing Jesus, sleeping or laying down, and he's reciting the Lord's Prayer. And I just thought there's such a simplicity to his life that we don't have right now. Not that it's not available to us, but it just seems so far-fetched. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things going on, and that, little device we call a smartphone is one of them. And so I try and keep my distance, but for me, like, I don't know do you get distracted by anything in the morning? Or you wake up?
Honestly, I don't wake up in the morning with my mind spinning on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I have tried so hard to practice the discipline of speaking to the Lord quickly.
Yeah.
And so, on Sunday, I did talk about the Lord's Prayer, that disciples' prayer, in connection with the fact that the Lord is already exalted, but we're praying this anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, because on earth right now, it's not as it is in heaven, but that's what we're praying.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that early morning prayer is critical. So just imagine now if you sang that little chorus in verse 5 and verse 11. So it is critical for us to develop the discipline of getting up in the morning and saying, I think out loud, consciously, God, I want you to be looking like God today. Yeah. I want you to be God today for me. If you do that sets your trajectory for faith and obedience throughout, So, I can't think of anything more important in the morning than to sing that chorus, or recite that prayer, because that prayer that the Lord taught us to pray includes that very thing. We want His will to be done today, which gets back to throughout this week. Just keep thinking about how God looks because of your representation and mine. We are the image bearers.
Mm-hmm. So are you tempted to be distracted by anything? Or are you pretty disciplined in that? So here's my confession. Here's where I get distracted, or I am tempted to be distracted. So my mornings, I wake up, and social media, honestly, I don't care.
Sure.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's going on in anyone's life because I am not on it. But I want to know what the Phillies did, the previous night.
Sure.
That's important to me.
It is.
And I also am thinking about a rack of ribs or my breakfast.
Yeah.
My gut is saying, feed me. I'm ready to eat in the morning, and I'm curious what the Phillies did last night. But knowing that, I will say, though, that practicing that morning prayer has been good. And it's not something I'm, batting 1,000 on, to go back to my baseball. I'm not doing it every day, but it's been pretty consistent. And that's something probably in the last couple of years that's been growing and been good for me. And one of my courses at LBC Capital was about just spiritual disciplines. And so to be able to start off and have like a routine in the morning to, sit up in my bed, put my feet on the ground and pray has been a good thing. And I think probably in some of my better moments, I'm able to think through the day just in a matter of 30 seconds and think, what's coming today? What are some areas that I'm going to be tempted in? What are some areas that are going to push me or press me? And how can I do that well in a way that's glorifying to God?
Yeah.
Pray for wisdom quickly for whatever that might be.
Sure.
And so but I think to add this prayer to that, just that simple wish to be exalted, O God, among the nations in my life, just through the day, is a good thing to be praying. So
I do think the best thing that you can do to exalt Him is first thing in the morning, practice praise. Just practice praising Him, songs of praise, however you do it. But you practice praising Him in the morning, first thing. And it is different it's even different from running to Him quickly in crisis. I mean, if you can start with gratitude and thanksgiving and praise to Him That's one of those exaltation things that he never tires of, and that's the negative. He always hears that well.
Yeah, well, and it starts your day off.
It does
in a godly minded way.
Yeah,
God minded way.
Yeah,
and some Sundays I'll try, and my mornings are a little slower on Sundays, and so I'll try and listen to a couple worship songs, while I'm outside with the dog and something like that, and that's helpful just to focus my mind.
Yeah, I just want to say too, if you're really serious about this exaltation, glorifying God, one of the best things you can do is just watch carefully about where your mind goes the first thing in the morning when you wake up. Just watch that pattern. You'll see patterns develop. If you're intentional about that, what you'll discover those places where faith is being stretched, and you be amazed at what you learn about yourself if you catch yourself first thing. Where does my mind go? Ask yourself then, why does it go there? And then I think that's a great opportunity to adjust and maybe helpful.
Are you saying baseball's maybe a little too important to me?
I wouldn't say that publicly.
Okay.
Maybe after we're off the air.
It's good though. It's a good thing to observe. And so that's helpful. All right. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you.
All right.
See you all.
Bye. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.